Okay, directors, it's 12:30. We have confirmation of quorum. Call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the public agenda?
Move that the agenda include one item of new business.
Okay, hang on. Let's get a second first, please.
Okay.
So moved by Director Lee. Second, Director Baker. Okay, Director Lee, go ahead.
One item of new business being a grant and aid from Mary D, which was approved at committee this morning. And so that's new business.
Okay, and that's the Mountain Aviation Rescue Society?
Yeah, Mars, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. Any other discussion? Okay,
Move the agenda as amended.
As amended, thank you, Director Lee. Second by Director Ollie. I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. No petitions or delegations. Motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting July 14th.
Move adoption.
Director Ollie. Director Davis, second. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item F, business rising from the minutes. Is there any business rising from the minutes?
Mr. Chair, it's Director Lee. Is it possible to get a brief status update on the short notice injunction where we've applied for last month on 3947 South Island Highway? What's happening with the application? Or the court's going to be hearing it soon? I'm still dealing with a lot of complaints because of all-night parties and lots of bylaw infractions going on still on that property. And I'm just wondering how much longer the neighbors are going to have to put up with that.
Okay, so I'll go to the CO.
We can, Mr. Chair. Aniko is prepared if the board wants a verbal update from her.
That'd be great.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to the board. I'm pleased to report that after much work at the staff level and a very thorough affidavit from our bylaw compliance officer, we were granted the short notice, and our legal counsel did appear before the Honorable Mr. Justice Baird just this past Monday. At that meeting, the Honorable Mr. Baird did approve an order. The order restricts the property owner from doing any further work to the structure until such time that a building permit or demolition permit is issued by the regional district. So at this time, we are waiting for the property owner to meet the requirements of either the demolition permit or building permit and proceed with that work. Over the past 2 days since this order has been issued, we have not been made aware of any further building activities occurring over the property. I do note that there still is other activities that are of issue to the neighbors, and both our bylaw enforcement officer and the RCMP continue to monitor those activities on site. Thank you.
Great,
That's
thank you very much. Anything else, Director Lee?
I just want to thank staff for getting on this and getting this order quickly. We still have the behaviors. Over the weekend, they had an outdoor rock and roll party starting around midnight, and people that work, on shift work and whatnot are really struggling with the behaviors on the property. But I just keep telling them, just keep phoning the RCMP if it's violent, phone 911. And but the neighbors are really at the end of their rope. So they'll be happy to hear that that Justice Baird ordered that something's going to progress on the house anyway. So that's good.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, business rising from the minutes?
I think Director Abrams got it. Oh,
Dr. Abram?
And, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondered, through Dave to Aniko, did the injunction address residency issue at all?
Thank you through the chair to Director Abram. At this time, it did not. The Justice Baird took this initial step, hoping that this would curb some of the activities that are occurring there. Did not, I guess, feel at this time that was necessary. However, I do know that should activities continue, building type activities continue, the onus would be on the regional district to return in front of the judge, at which point in time I've been made aware that additional restrictions would occur, which may include having the property owner removed from said property.
That would be done through the court, through the courts, or through the regional district?
Again, through the chair to the director, yeah, it would have to go back in front of the judge.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the business rising? If not, there'd be a motion to receive the report and the verbal update from Aniko.
Motion to receive. Second.
Director Lee, Director Abram. No further discussion. I'll call question. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, carried. G, public considerations. There's nothing. No motion, nothing. Chair's report. The only thing I'd like to say, I'm hoping everybody, it sounds like Director Cornfield's had some time off, so that's nice. So everybody else has had some time to take some break. That includes directors and staff as it's summertime. So I hope everybody had an opportunity to relax a little bit. That's my chair's report. So I don't know if you want to receive that as a verbal motion to do so, please.
Move receipt.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
Director Davis, thank you. Anyone opposed? Carried. Under committee chair reports, Electoral Area Service Committee, motion to receive the minutes for July 14th.
Move receipt.
Second.
Wally and Abram. Any errors, omissions? All questions, anyone opposed? Carried. Item 2, Strathcona Gardens, regular meeting for July 14th. Motion received.
Evans.
Director Evans.
Second.
Director Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. External reports, under staff reports, Marywood Road flooding. Motion to receive the report from CAO.
Move receipt.
So moved.
Director Lee and Director Abram. Anything to add, CEO?
nothing, Ned, just one comment. Director Lee brought it to our attention. I think we've got two different addresses for the Marywood Road. Director Lee, which was, we had 223 and
So it
233.
should be, yeah, it should be 223 and 211,
Okay,
or
thank you.
211 and 223 rather than 33 in the
Thank
in the recommendation and the
Okay.
minutes actually, but I amended the minutes at the electoral areas this morning.
Okay,
And I think that was just a typo actually, because we've been communicating with those two addresses for a while. So I think it was just a little slip.
okay. So do we need a motion on that, Mr. Yates?
I would move
Okay, we're on
that.
receipt. Okay,
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
we're still on receipt.
Okay,
So after receipt, we'll move forward. Nothing else on receipt? Call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, the letter be sent to Michael Pearson, Mr. Transportation, North Island, requesting assistance or providing recommendation for the Marywood Road flooding matter affecting properties 211 and 223, correct?
Yes, yep.
it's, yes, 211 and 223.
Okay, thank you. Motion for B.
So moved.
Director Abram, second.
Lee,
Director Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 2, comparative gifts for regional district parks. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Director
So
Lee,
moved.
Director Abrams, thank you, and the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. So on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Call carried. And item B, that request for
So
comment.
moved.
Second.
Abrams?
Abrams.
And Director Lee, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Call question. Is anyone opposed? Carried. Item 3, agricultural land reserve application 1A21 Critchley. Motion to receive the report from the CEO.
Move receipt.
Second.
Director Woolley, Director Lee, and I'll go to CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meredith will speak to this.
Thank you to the chair. So this application for the agricultural land reserve is to subdivide a 3.2 hectare parcel into two parcels, one at 1.5 hectares and one at 1.7 hectares. Being in the agricultural land reserve means that it must go to the ALC, or the Agricultural Land Commission, first, which that has happened, and the ALC has asked the regional district to pass a motion recommending that it go forward to the commission for their consideration or not. That is the role that we play in this particular process. If approved here by the board, it will go to the ALC for them to consider. And if approved by the ALC, it would go to the ministry for a formal subdivision application. So the property itself is not currently being used for farm purposes. Though it is noted by the agrologist report, which was attached to this report, that removing the land from the ALR would erode its agricultural potential, or subdividing it would, which is a position that would generally be held by the ALC, is our assumption. But the current owners are retiring and they're unable to maintain the full property, so their intent is to continue residing on the smaller of the parcels, while the larger parcel could be sold off to continue being used as farmland. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So on receipt report, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Director Abrams, do you have a question on receipt or on B?
I guess I'll make my comment on B.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call question on receipt. Is anyone opposed? Carried. And item B,
Move that the agricultural land reserve application ALR 1A21 Critchley be authorized to proceed to the Agricultural Land Commission for subdivision of lands known as Lot A, Section 34, Township 6, Sayward District. Plan EPP 39673 is indicated on the proposed subdivision plan attached to staff report dated August 3rd, 2021.
thank you,
Second.
Director Wally, second by Director Lee. Discussion, Director Abram.
Okay, could I revise my comment and say I'd like to speak on C?
Sure.
Thank you.
Any discussion on B? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. And item C, the board declined to offer recommendation to the LLC with
Move
respect
C.
to this proposal. Director Wally,
Second.
Director Lee, and Director Abram.
Okay, well, I haven't discussed this with the director for Area A, but it's a general comment. And it's about us not offering recommendations to the ALC. The ALC, as I think most of you know, is a fairly difficult agency to deal with when we come to subdivisions of ALC land for very, very valid reasons. And if we don't offer a recommendation, it's dead in the water. That's it. If we do offer a recommendation, it at least gives the opportunity for the applicants, the ALC, possibly the SRD, an opportunity to be able to speak to the actual application and, offer further information, talk about, why, what, where, etc. If we make no recommendation, basically it's just in their court, do as you please. We've just gone through one with Area C, and, we had the same discussion at that point. I believe we ended up, I'd have to go back in the minutes, but I believe we ended up actually offering a recommendation. And it still did no good. The agrologist won, which was to not subdivide. So consequently, 4 10-acre parcels will not be able to be used for farmland for 4 young families that are actually in line to purchase those properties. So I think that, we're trying to become self-sufficient, and we're trying to provide food. I get Facebook postings every day from Lana Popman talking about how, grow BC, we got to grow BC. Okay, you want to grow BC, then you got to provide some land for people and some places for the people to live in order to move forward with producing food. You can't do it, without the permission of the ALC. So I think that item C should actually be with the permission of the director from Area A. My suggestion would be that we offer a recommendation to approve this request.
Okay, that's not the motion that's on the table at this
If
time.
necessary.
Comment, Mr. Chair?
No, I realize that.
Wally? Go ahead, Director Wally.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, in this particular case, there's already 2 dwellings on the property. People have lived there for years in separate houses. This is a attempt to sell off 1/2 as a profitable enterprise. It wouldn't change the residential status at all. So I'm not personally in favor of it. I think it's best to have that final decision come from the ALR rather than from us.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on item C?
Yeah, just that I'll certainly go along with the director for the area.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any further hands up. So I'll call question on C. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 4, First Nation Relations Committee, terms of reference. Motion to receive the report from CEO.
The
Move the
receipt,
report.
Wally and Abram, thank you. And the CEO.
Excuse me, nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, section 3.1 of the term of reference for the First Nations Relations Committee be replaced with the following.
Move B.
Abram B, seconder. Wally seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Director Cornfield.
Just so that the board is familiar with this. In the past, the board has always been balanced between an electoral area and municipal, small, large, and First Nations as well. And what happened at the last appointment time is there was no one representing electoral areas on the committee. And the committee felt that it was important that they be represented, and hence we had to change the terms of reference.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 5, Strathcona Gardens Grant Opportunity, Infrastructure Canada. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Move receipt, Evans.
Evans and Lee. And the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So on receipt of the report, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, grant application through Infrastructure Canada's Green and Inclusive Community Building Funding Program be submitted for the areas planned to be renovated within the Recreate project.
Move B, Evans.
Director Evans, seconder.
Second.
Director
Second.
Cornfield. Any Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 6, electoral area D water system metering. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Director Lee, seconder.
Second.
Director Cornfield, and the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Kill. So on report, we'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B is that once the next intake of grant funding is announced, the SRD proceed with application for funding universal metering for electoral area D water service based on a touch read system.
Move the recommendation.
Director
Second.
Lee. Was it Director Cornfield? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Area D water system, financial relief. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Director Lee,
Second,
Director Abram, and I'll go to CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in response to recommendation from East that staff look into financial relief alternatives for Area D water system, our Chief Financial Officer has prepared a second report for that, and I'll let him speak to this, Mike Harmston.
Hi, thanks, Dave. So yeah, the direction was to look at internal solutions to find rate relief for seniors and persons on fixed income. The establishing bylaw authorizes 5 different sources of funding, which all include the most common methods to fund a utility service. The report discusses each of those methods and certain factors the board can consider to meet any objectives they want to achieve. The taxation options are relatively straightforward. However, the board has a lot of latitude when establishing the user fees. The main limitation of the user fees are just administration time and maybe the lack of universal metering, which would limit some of the volume-based fee structures that could be plausible. We do have a balanced budget, so any change should be considered holistically. A reduction to one revenue component has to be offset by one or more changes to another component in order to be sustainable. And then the funding structure also needs to be flexible, so it can be adapted year over year to account for changes to the future cost delivery. Happy to receive any feedback or answer any questions on the report.
Great, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Director Lee.
thank you. I've thought a lot about this report, and I believe I sent a recommendation into Edith in writing to put before the board as a suggestion.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
If she could pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, well,
Thank
as
you,
soon
receipt.
as we're done with receipt, we'll move forward.
Okay.
Any other discussion on receipt? Seeing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. And Director Lee.
Okay, I sent in a motion and there it is. That staff devise a method of financial relief for water billing in Northern Area D for those people experiencing financial hardship and paying the exorbitant water rates being imposed upon them. And that a system similar to the Strathcona Gardens Life program be considered, such that people who are experiencing real financial hardship and meet the means tested criteria can apply for a discounted water rate to be financed from Area D's water reserves.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Director
So
Baker.
if I can, Mr. Chair, just before there's maybe some discussion on the motion, we would not legislatively be able to take water or money out of the reserves if we were going to use to offset costs for people that are struggling with their paying their water bill. So that we just would not be able to do that. The rest of the motion looks fine to me, but the money can't come from reserves to do that.
Oh, I must have misread the report because it said we had $48,000 in reserves plus 3.3 million in gas tax funds, and that was that I've sort of earmarked for new water lines. And I don't know exactly how many people. There's about 25% of the total water users that are on fixed incomes, on pensions or disability. I don't know how many of those would apply if there was a program like the LIFE program where they could, you know, if they were below a certain annual income, they could apply and it could be administered by the SRD and financed from somewhere in Area D's water accounts, because there is quite a lot of money in the accounts to, you know, draw from. So maybe I should amend the motion to be financed from Area D water and just put period and let the staff investigate where it would be most appropriate to take it from.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so just take the word reserves out of the end of that motion, and that will be the motion. Just where's the word reserves? Perfect. Okay.
Okay, Director Baker, are you okay with that?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
I am.
Okay, I've got a list going here. So I've got Director Moglove, Abram, Anderson on the list, and Director Wally.
Yes, please.
So Director Moglove, go ahead.
I just have a question. Is this motion asking staff to come back with another report on some type of financial relief program? Because the way it's worded, devising a method, and that's different than a report. Okay, if that's the case. So the only other problem I see with it, well, two. Number one, there's a lot of editorial comment in the motion, which I think should be removed, i.e. I think it simply should read that staff devise or report back, whatever, a method of financial relief for water billing in Northern Area D for those people experiencing financial hardship.
And then leave the next part out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested in editorial comment at this point. And if you want to have that last part, that it would be financed from Area D's water, that's fine. So I think staff know where you're going with this. So I don't. So that's my comment on the motion as presented. The other concern I would have, and I presume it would be in the report that would come back, is that I would certainly be wanting to know how onerous the workload would be for staff to administer such a program similar to the LIFE program. I don't know, what's involved. I believe, that people have to fill out forms. I just don't really know. So presumably that would be in the report. But if you can remove the editorial comment from it, I would be happy to move forward with this.
I would be happy to remove the editorial comment. So then you
Okay,
take out.
Let's wait for the rest of the discussion.
Okay.
Director Cornfield.
Have to learn about using our program all over again. I think Director Moglove phrased my concerns in probably a better way of doing it, so I will wait, and I'm assuming that the motion will be amended.
Okay. Director Abram.
Yeah, my comments were similar. Remove exorbitant and being imposed upon them, rather than being imposed, being charged to them. I guess those would both be editorial comments and would be much more neutral.
Okay, thank you. Director Anderson.
Ditto to the last three speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. And to staff, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that to sum up the LIFE program, it's for admittance into the rec center. So you just have to list all the people who want admittance and then bring proof of income, notably your 2022 tax assessment, and then proof of your residence. So we would have some considerations just because we're delivering the service. So for example, property owners versus renting, proving who's actually using the water. You have multifamily homes, or you have, for example, if you have a low income person with a tenant, who would be applicable to charge. So there would be some further considerations, I guess, coming forward in any next report, bringing up some of the problems in administration time with that.
Okay, thank you. Director Abram, your hand's still up, or did you pop it back up again?
Nope, sorry, I just forgot to take it down.
Okay, just double checking, thank you. Okay, so is there
Yeah,
any
sorry.
other?
Can I just, for the board's information and in reflection of Mike's recent comment, just say that 90% of Area D, Northern Area D, is single family residential. And there's a few, I could count them on my left hand, duplexes, and a few commercial properties that are charged differently. I'm talking about just people who are on disability pensions, old age pensions, and the water bills are exceeding their ability to pay. And they've asked me to try to find some way of relieving them of some of it. So even if, we set a percentage discount, if they're under a certain, if they can prove they're under a certain income level, we could devise a system that would work. And honestly, only those that really need it would apply anyway, because they'd have to go through a little bit of paperwork. But I think that it's considerate to do that. And I know that when I first got elected, and way back in 1993, the system was called the Willow Point Water System, and it had a representative from Campbell River, Dodd Andrews, on the committee, and the Black Creek director was on the committee.
You're getting off.
Sorry, I'm straying. I just wanted to say that we did have a seniors discount rate at that time when I first got elected.
Okay, thank you. Director Moglove.
Thanks. With the indulgence of with Director Lee, I was wondering whether I might suggest a different wording for the motion, which would still achieve what I believe wants to achieve, but I could support, and I think other members who have spoken about removing the editorial comment could support as well. Would that be okay, Director Lee?
You go ahead,
So,
Director Moglove.
Oh, if you don't mind.
If Director Baker agrees, I'm fine if you do it.
Okay,
So I do see that Director Wally's hand's up first. Should I wait for him before I start?
Yep, please, Director Wally.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say on this rare occasion that I'm in total agreement with Director Moglove.
Okay.
This is happening quite often, Director Wally. My goodness. Okay, so this is how I think.
So I think it sounds like to me the motion is going to change. So I think maybe the easiest is defeat this motion that's on the floor right now.
I think I just withdraw the motion and let Director Moglove make a new motion. Withdraw.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Director Baker?
Second.
Cool.
Okay.
Any discussion? Okay, it's done, it's gone.
Okay, so just leave this on, because it's going to be very similar. So what I suggest, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yep,
Edith, just edit what she's got. Yeah, because she's just gonna.
Yeah, so it'll be basically quite similar. So that staff report back on a, well, I'm missing the words, on a what's the word that Brenda had as the first one?
Method of financial relief.
A method of financial relief for water billings in Northern Area B for those people experiencing financial hardship, comma, similar to Strathcona Gardens Life Program, comma, to be financed from Area D's water service.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second that.
Everybody can see the new motion. Moved by Director Moglove, second by Director Lee. Any further discussion? Director Wally?
I forgot to take my hand down, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Director Colburn, do you have a comment? Julie, are you there? No. Okay. Apparently she's not there. Any other further discussion on the motion then? Seeing no hands up, I'll call question. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, directors. Item 8, appointment of regional district auditor. Motion received. Report from CEO.
Move receipt.
Adams,
Second.
Davis,
Abram.
CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike will speak to this as well.
Thanks, Dave. Yes, we did the RFP for the audit, or we last did it 5 years ago. We recently redid it in June. We did get a few calls from various firms, but ultimately just one proponent responded by the deadline. I suspect the low response rate is likely due to COVID and the fact that MMP has been performing our audit for so long. They're quite a well-established firm. They have a high level of service. So any competing firms likely would assume that they would be a pretty tough proponent to outbid. I think the rest of it's in the report, so happy to receive any feedback on the report.
Thank you. On received report, call questions. Anyone opposed?
Hello,
Carried.
I have my hand up.
Director Cornfield.
Yeah, I had a question on the report. Well, actually, I can wait till part B.
Okay, thank you. A question on report. Is anyone opposed? Carried. And item B, that the firm MNP LLP Chartered Accountants be appointed as the SRD's auditor for 2022 to 2026 financial
So moved.
years. Director Adams,
Second.
second. Director Davis, I
Abram.
believe. Director Abram. And discussion, Director Cornfield.
Just this appointment from 22 to 26, I'm assuming that would appoint the auditors for 2025 and 2024 as well. Or are we talking the 22 to 26 financial plan?
No, the 5 full years. Yeah.
Okay, and then my concern is that there's an election in 2022 and the entire board could change. And is it appropriate that we make an appointment multi-year, even though a number of us may no longer be on the board?
Well, if I can, Mr. Chair, so we have competitively bid it. So we're following proper procurement. Regardless of the board, that wouldn't change or results wouldn't change. If a future board wanted to cancel agreement, that's always within their purview. There may be a financial penalty to that, but we have properly procured it. So I think it's appropriate. This is past practice. It's not unique to here. So.
Okay, thank you, CEO. Any other further discussion? Director Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was just curious as to whether there's a cost saving over contracting them for this many years as opposed to up until the next election.
There absolutely would be an economy of scale in this. As you can see, the actual price for the audits has dropped throughout the years as we put it out to bid. So certainly when there's some cost certainty for the accounting firm, there's going to be an economy of scale in there for it.
Thanks for that.
Any other further discussion? See none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 9, electronic attendance at SRD board and committee meetings. Motions.
Move receipt.
Abram and Wally and the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll pass this over to Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the board had asked for a report to explore alternatives for continued electronic participation meetings, which is what this report is attempting to do. Just to summarize, at the end of September, the authority for the board to hold electronic meetings will cease, and the ability to continue doing that will fall exclusively to the board's procedure bylaw. Now, fortunately, there's a little bit of clarity required in terms of the definition of electronic meetings, because under the current definition, the board has allowed electronic participation, but it has not been holding electronic meetings in the strict statutory sense. So I don't foresee there's going to be much of an issue transitioning beyond the end of September. We are recommending, however, that we bring back a report next month to talk about perhaps some of the criteria that are currently in the procedure bylaw that maybe the board would like to look at changing. So that's kind of where we're at with that whole process. Thank you.
Any discussion? Director Abram.
Yeah, I will, after you do receipt, I'd like to make a motion based on the report.
Joe? Any further discussion on receipt?
Just one, Mr. Chair, if I can just provide a little bit of clarity for the directors if they're uncertain. So what Tom spoke to there, if it is the intention of the board to amend our bylaws for both participation and meetings, I believe those would be, now whether you want one or the other or both of those would be included in option B and C.
Joe? I don't see any further discussion. So on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Director Abram.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move option B, which is that the board consider amendments to the current procedure bylaw that would broaden the circumstances under which directors could participate electronically in meetings.
Second.
I am, if I'm seconder. So I am specifically concerned about participation electronically. If we want to get into electronic meetings, I think maybe we should do that as a possible separate motion, or if you want to include it in this, fine, I don't care. But I think this is probably one of the one good thing that came out of COVID was the fact that we can, we've proven that we can have electronic meeting. We're having one right now, or we're participating in a meeting electronically. And it's working. It has been working. It works at our other regional boards, and it is extremely cost effective. We save a lot of money, and we spent a lot of money setting up our boardroom to, accommodate this kind of thing and all of the other things that it does accommodate. So I hope that you'll support option B.
Thank you, Director Abram. Any further discussion? Director Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to also speak in favor of option B. I know for us that it's the way to go, because I don't really want to be coming out to Campbell River all the time, and all the time that's wasted on that, wear and tear on my vehicle, greater costs to taxpayers. I'm willing to attend some meetings in person, but I really like the new paradigm and I'd like to retain it. Thanks.
Cool. Any further discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is for option B. I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Next item, number 10, preserve tax exemption 2022 for Royal Canadian Legion, branch 154. Motion to receive the report from CO.
Move receipt, Jay.
Second Wally, and I'll go to CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add.
Cool. On receipt report, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, the bylaw be prepared for the board's consideration with all presumptive tax exemption for 2022 for all land and improvements in property class 08 recreation nonprofit for Lot A of DL 24 Plan V IP 30584 Hayward District, et cetera, et cetera.
I would move item B. Abram.
Second.
Second, I think was Adams.
Yes.
Go. Any further discussion? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 11, presumptive tax exemption 2022 Surgeon Arrows Community Association. Motion to receive the report from the CEO. Abram.
Second.
Second, Wally, the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Okay. On received report, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, bylaw
move
prepared for
B.
the board's consideration.
Second.
Abram and Wally. Any further discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 12, request for financial assistance. Francis Strathcona Park, motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
Director Wally, and the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Okay, on receipt. Call questions, report. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the board approve a grant for the Francis Strathcona Park in amount of $3,000 to assist with a park use study conducted by students this summer, paid for from the electoral area D grant and aid budget.
Move the recommendation.
Director Lee,
Second, Evans.
Director Evans seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 13, request for financial assistance, electoral area C. Motion to receive the
I'd like to
report
move
from
the-
CEO.
I'd like to move the report, but I'll have to
Okay.
make a correction. when we get to
Director
B.
Abram, seconder.
Second.
Director Wally. And the ad CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Director Abram, is it on receipt of the report or further down?
No, it'll be on B
Okay, thank you.
1 and 2.
Okay, on receipt of the report, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the board approved grants in aid to be paid from Echo Area C grant and aid budget as follows: $2,000 for Quadriculture Committee to assist with the 2021-2022 concert series, and $1,000 to the Surgeon Arrows Community Association to assist in the Lambert's Beach Stage roof repairs.
Okay, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
I'll
let's have it
move-
moved.
I guess I'll move it and then I'll have to amend it, I guess.
Please.
It's just it's a simple change in that it's in the first one, it's the electoral area C economic development function. And the second part of B, it's the grants and aid function. So they're both grants and aid, but they come from separate pots.
Second.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Moved by Director Abram, second by Director Wally. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Under bylaws, bylaw 441, Salmon Brewster Trail Funding, motion to receive report.
Move receipt.
Director Wally, Director Lee seconded, and the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick comments for the director on this. This is a project that that is approved through the UBCM funding, and also that in the bylaw. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Oh, no, I'm on the right one, sorry. And the second is that we've included in the bylaw the authority for the regional district to audit the expenses to make sure they're appropriate.
Okay, thank you. On receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none carried. Item B,
Move
Bylaw
that,
four.
oh, go ahead.
441 be approved. Director Wally,
Yes.
Second.
Move B.
second by Director Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item C, rules be suspended for bylaw 441 for
Move
second and third reading.
So moved.
Wally,
Second.
Director Lee. Any discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. And item D, the bylaw 441 be returned for consideration and adoption.
So moved.
Director Wally,
Second.
Director Lee. Any further discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Correspondence? We have 5 items.
Move receipt of all correspondence.
Second.
Director
I
Lee, Director Wally.
Request that they be in Syrian, please.
Like, pull one, please.
To pull 1. Okay, 1's pulled. Is everybody okay with
2 to
pull
5.
2 to
please.
5? Sorry, somebody wanted 5 pulled?
Yes, please.
Okay, so 2 to 4.
Move 2
Motion
to
received.
4.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
Director Adams. Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Go back to item 1. Cortez Island Transportation Planning, motion received.
So moved.
Second.
Lee and Abram, thank you. Any discussion? Director Anderson?
Thank you. I would just like to be told by staff how this planning is going to be undertaken. I know it was some outreach on behalf of some of my constituents who've been actively involved in transportation issues here that sort of brought the funding opportunity and recommendation to staff, and staff ran with it, and that's great, or at least that's my understanding. So how will this planning be undertaken? Will this be in-house? Is this contracted out? Is this partnered with a nonprofit on the island? And I would love if staff could send me a copy of the successful application or a summary thereof, so I have a bit of a sense of what's expected.
Okay, I'll go to staff.
Thank you through the chair. We have just been made aware of this successful application. Certainly, we can forward the application to the director. We will be proceeding with this project through expressions of interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just appreciate being kept abreast of that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Abram.
Yeah, it's similar question. I was wondering where funding will come from to complete the requirements of number 3. All funded projects must result in the incorporation or enhancement of active transportation components in formal planning documents, meaning our official community plan, sustainability plan, neighborhood plan, transportation plan. That's going to require funding to somebody, to a consultant, to out of our planning budget somewhere. And if it's going to be out of our staff component, well, we had a long conversation at the Environmental Services Committee this morning about the fact that we don't have a plan for all of the electoral areas, and we're sort of reacting rather than planning. And this is one more thing being thrown at planning department. So who's going to pay for it, and how are we going to fit it in?
I would CEO.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so there's no time component to the projects must result in incorporation or enhancement of a transportation plan in formal documents like an OCP. So, you know, what their intention is that we do an active transportation plan, and at some point it's implemented in some OCPs in the community and transportation plans without a time component attached to it. So when we get into further discussion in terms, I mean, the report, the plan hasn't been even tendered out. So when we see results of the plan, I think it's appropriate at that time to talk about how implementation can be blended into things like OCPs and neighborhood plans.
Okay, thank you, CEO.
If I may, as a subsequent, I appreciate comments on our CAO, but the way I read it was these things have to be done prior to saying that we have successfully used the money. And if that's the case, then there would be time component.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not saying there wouldn't be a time component, but no, they can't supersede the study, because how would we know what it is? Maybe it says there needs to be, rapid transit on Cortez. That would have a massive financial component, or walking paths. Who knows what it's going to say? So you don't know the impact it's going to have until you see what it is. So they're saying that the results of the plan are to be implemented, but we don't know the results of the plan. Therefore, we don't know the financial impact or the time commitment it's going to be.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 5, Fire Smart Economic Recovery Fund, motion received.
Move receipt.
Director Lee, Director Anderson, the CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you. Just pulling up the item. So it was, again, I would just appreciate a reminder from staff about the nature of this funding. Was this the number of buildings in the areas that we're going to get fire? I think we already received that funding. So what is this for, please?
I will defer to Sean on that.
Did you say Mr. Yates?
Sure.
Oh, Sean, sorry.
I'm not sure. I can't see Sean's on here, so.
Mr. Yates is just opening it up, guys.
And I guess the follow-up to that would be similar to the transportation. How are we going to be doing this work in-house, or what?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, the application itself was not attached to this correspondence, but I am positive, knowing how Sean does his business, there would have been an uber detailed application submitted, which would have provided all of the rationale and the cost breakdown, et cetera. And that would have come to the board prior to being sent out. So I have every confidence that that this has been considered from a budgetary point of view as well as a staff resourcing point of view.
Oh, and I don't question that at all. I was just not remembering, given how prolific our grant applications had been recently, what this was specifically. So I'll have to go back and dig. But if you are able to just send out to the board a reminder and any notes about how this would be implemented, I'd be most grateful.
It is very difficult to keep up with, Mr. Koopman.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Johnson. Anything else on item 5? Oh, questions? Anyone opposed? Carried. Under P, members report, small community paramedic initiative. Motion to receive the report.
Motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Anderson and Baker. And I'll go Director Anderson.
Thank you. I do have a bit of an update since I submitted this, but before offering that to the board, I would love to hear from the chair if we were successful in trying to set up a meeting with the MLA and the ministry on this one, as was directed back, I think, perhaps in May with the small communities. Was there any discussion or attempt or movement on that direction from the board?
Yeah, Director Anderson, for some reason, I don't recall direction coming from the meeting in I think you just said May, on trying to set up a meeting. The CNO had a quick discussion this afternoon, and he doesn't recall anything either. CO?
I don't, but that doesn't mean to say it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Regardless, it doesn't look like a meeting has been set up, but if it's the will of the board to set up that meeting, certainly we can receive direction and contact the MLA for a meeting.
Yeah, my apologies if we missed this, Director Anderson.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up because I did reference it. Yeah, so it was a meeting of May 26th. My kid is going to bang on the door here. The motion was that the chair request a meeting with MLA and the Ministry of Health, including representatives of the affected rural communities of the SRD, to discuss the matter of small paramedic initiatives. Anyway, in the absence of that having happened, this has been implemented now in our communities just in the last couple of weeks. And as I outline in great detail here, sort of catastrophically here on the island, I would love to hear from other communities and see if we can have some regional advocacy on this one. The update that I wish to offer, I sent my report that I sent to the board off to the BCEHS and followed up with them. And I just got an email back today on it. I'll just read a couple of lines that is most specific, not the generalities of the program, but says specifically that we're adding more permanent, regularly scheduled paramedic positions to the Cortes Island Station. We've already begun recruitment of those positions and hope to get 3 more permanent paramedics in place by November 1st, bringing the total number of regular part-time positions at that station to 4. So I think that's the same as Quadra and Denman and perhaps others. The on-call staff currently supporting your station will continue to do so in addition to new positions. This change will provide consistent coverage and enhanced service to your community. Due to the transition period to bring these additional staff into the station, we will be reinstating the kilo guarantee for on-call staff on Cortes until that November 1st transition, when the additional paramedic positions commence. Employees impacted by the new enhancement have been contacted and will be supported in determining the right arrangements for their circumstances. We're pleased that these additions, So there's just a model perhaps for any other communities. I'm happy to share that. I sent that letter just to Tom today asking if it would be appropriate to put on the add to my report, but given that it was so late, it wasn't. So certainly with my permission, he could send it out to anybody who wanted it. That might provide a little bit of a template for any other communities, and just wanted to open up a discussion opportunity here for the kind of advocacy that we were trying to do some months ago. So it looks like Cortes is sort of maybe okay here, but love to hear from other communities where this is landing. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Director Anderson. Any further discussion?
Yep.
Director Davis.
Director Abram too.
I think Director Abram was before me.
Oh, go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see a copy of that letter. I mean, this isn't working for us, having one position really, and everybody else getting their $2 an hour or whatever. I know I'm hearing complaints from the paramedics in the community, so we certainly need to fix this as best we can here. So I'd love to see what you've done. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Davis. Director Abram.
Thank you. Just on that last point that Martin just talked about, the paramedics and their $2 and all that. The paramedics are terrified to speak. The ambulance attendants are terrified to speak because of the people they have to answer to. So they're not really telling us what works and what doesn't work, not publicly anyway. They are behind the scenes. And I'm not sure this is a great program, and I would like to know why, first of all, I wasn't contacted to participate in this, whatever, this shindig that's going to happen about this program, because we are definitely affected by it. And lastly, I'd like to say that Quadra has no intention of allowing its one ambulance to be dispatched to Cortez with long sailing waits and leaving a population of 3 times that of Cortez without ambulance service, with sometimes, major waits on both sides from Quadra and from Cortez. Normally they will try and get the ambulance on, but there's times when they can't. So we're not going to give up our ambulance. And if that's part of this program, which it sounds like it is, it's just not going to happen. This is really a serious issue that is being played around with by people that don't live in these outer areas, that don't understand what it's like to be in these outer areas without a hospital 10 minutes down the road. Okay, it's a really, really big difference. And our MLA should know. She's lived in the area, she's heard the stories, but we need somebody higher than just our MLA. So, at the ministry level, we need whoever the Minister of Health is, and Adrian Dixon, or a DM or somebody to talk to us about this situation, because it's not good. And it's going to be spun as being good. And I hope that people don't buy it.
Okay, thank you. Director Baker.
Is this not an issue that's affecting most areas in the SRD? So is this not appropriate for the SRD to actually jump on this as a collective?
Yep.
Opposed to individual municipalities consistently sending out the letters? So how do we go about that? Do we need a motion?
If that's something that you want to direct staff, a motion from the board would be appropriate.
Well, if the motion that was made in May might still be relevant. It was motion 5/28/21. Anyone wants to use that as a base?
Yeah, we'll carry on with that one there, Director Anderson.
Sorry, if I could ask what meeting agenda and what item that was being referenced?
May 26th.
Tom or Edie, could you pull that up if you have the ability to?
Yep, they're looking into it.
Yeah, we received correspondence from BCEHS at that meeting for Cortez and Quadra Island, the new initiatives that were being implemented. And then there was a letter at that time from the Mayor of Zabalas to the minister that we received. And then we directed that we pull together a meeting. Was the nature of what happened that day.
Okay, so we found it. Director Anderson Davis, SRD 52821, chair requested meeting with Michelle Babchuk, MLA, the Ministry of Health, including representatives from the affected rural communities of the SRD to discuss the matter of small community paramedic initiatives. So my apologies again. We missed it and we'll get on that.
So I would, I don't know if you want that motion again, but I would suggest that we include in that, that the BCEHS be included, because they're the ones on the ground that would actually be implementing any changes.
Okay, so once we're done with receipt, we'll add that in.
Thank you.
Okay, so anything else on the report as is? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. And Director Anderson? You just want to carry on with SRD 52821, adding in, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think it's fair, given that it's a few months, to renew it. So I would put that motion back on the table with the addition of, so MLA, Ministry of Health, and BCEHS. Thank you. Which is the organization that we received the communication from.
Correct.
And if it's the will of the board, Tom can forward that letter that I received from them to everyone. I'll send it to you, Martin.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. I need a seconder.
Second.
Dr.
Second.
Wally, thank you.
If
Dr.
I-
Baker.
If I could.
Dr. Baker is first.
Good.
I'm sorry, I'm good.
Okay, Director Abram.
Yeah, just I think, well, why aren't we including Island Health?
It does say Ministry of Health.
It's my understanding, Jim,
It says
that
Ministry
that it's not
of
actually
Health
Island
and
Health,
Island
that
Health.
BCEHS is a separate division of the ministry, like all the health authorities that deal with the ambulance service, but it's not actually a health authority jurisdiction.
Okay, my point would be that that is very true, absolutely true. But Island Health will end up with the consequences of what comes out of this. Through our
Sure.
health system, our doctors, our nurses, our hospital. They're all going to be involved, and we might as well have them all in the same room.
I would
Okay.
accept that as a friendly.
Okay, so VHA's included in it. As a friendly.
So,
Director
it's called
Adams,
Island
sorry.
Health now.
Thank you, and appreciate the discussion. May I suggest that this also be requested to be added to the next agenda for the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital Board, as this would include the whole Comox Valley Regional District as well, and even engage Mount Waddington, because this is truly a North Island issue.
Edith,
Yes,
could
you're
you add-
correct.
Did you add VHA to that?
Sorry, go ahead, CO.
Oh, just saying, Edith, could you add VHA to the list after BCEHS?
Yeah. So Director Adams' suggestion is to include correspondence with Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital Board and Mount Waddington.
I think that's totally acceptable. I just think it would be a subsequent.
Okay, I agree. So let's go with the main motion that's on the table now. Dr. Cornfield?
No, it's okay. It was about the additional matter which will come up. I'll take my hand down.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you're gonna change the wording of the mover and seconder on there?
Yeah, sorry, yes, it's now Director Anderson and Director Wally. Thank you, Director Wally.
Thank you.
There we go. NANGW, there we go. Okay, I'll call question on the motion. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And Director Adams, would you like to make a subsequent?
I'll take a stab at it, that this issue be referred to the Comox Strathcona and Mount Waddington regional districts for information and potential collaboration.
Second that.
Evans.
We'll just give Edie a second. It should be referred to Comox Strathcona and Mount Waddington for collaboration and information, Director Adams?
Yeah, for information and collaboration, I think the information comes first. And potential collaboration.
Potential.
Okay, and second by Director Evans. Any discussion? Director Cornfield?
Yeah, I would suggest that it go to the Comox Valley Regional District.
Yep, that's good.
As opposed to the hospital.
CVRD.
CVRD. And takeouts, yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Okay, I'll take that as a friendly. Director Anderson?
Thank you. I'm just wanting to invite any reflection from other representatives from small rural communities here in anticipation of this discussion, both meetings, both for the resolution we just passed and for potential discussion with our fellow regional districts. I'd love to hear how this program is landing to your knowledge in communities. I don't know if this is the appropriate moment, Mr. Chair, your call, or whether there'd be another opportunity for us to discuss amongst ourselves before being in a position with meeting with others.
So let's vote on this first and then bring up your thought. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. And then Director Anderson, you're asking for more input from our small rural communities areas within the SRD, correct?
Well, I just provided a whole bunch of information here on the Cortez situation, and I just wondered if there would be a moment here for the other reps from small rural communities or small municipalities in just right now in this setting to share your experiences of what is happening. And if not at this moment, what might be the appropriate venue to share with each other before being in a meeting with the MLA, et cetera?
I would take it, you know, I know Director Colburn's not here. I would prefer if once we get the information from what's going on, you know, your letter from Mr. Yates, then I would ask each area director to comment back and bring it back to our next board meeting. Because I know, you know, trying to set up a meeting right now, it's not going to be for a little while anyways with the people we want to sit down and talk to. Director Davis?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I want to follow up with our paramedics and have another conversation and digest all of this before I get back, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put it on to each director of your area. Talk to your paramedics in your communities, in your areas, and come back with some information to everybody. Okay, anything else, Director Anderson?
No, that's great. Yeah, I really do hope that we can talk about this at our September meeting and have a bit more robust sense from throughout the region, because I completely concur with Director Abram that the paramedics are feeling very gagged and won't even hardly speak to me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we passed all the motions. We're done there. On the Q management report, there's no management report. Under R, new business, Director Lee.
Thank you. Edith has a motion regarding the Mountain Avian Rescue grant and aid.
Okay, there it is, Director Lee.
Yep, that a grant and aid for the Mountain Avian Rescue Society, MARS, in the amount of $10,000 be approved to assist with rehabilitation and education program costs to be paid from the electoral area D grant and aid budget, and that these funds be provided on an expedited basis.
Seconder.
Second.
Director Adams, thank you. And Director Lee, anything to add?
Just that there's been several media releases from Mars begging for help for more food to feed. They've got 11 eagles right now, and they've got lots of animals in distress through this drought, and they need more assistance. RAD normally gives them a grant. Every year they applied for this grant in February, but given that they're in a pinch right now, I would like to expedite the grant to them and get it out to them as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Director Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Is anyone opposed? Carried.
Okay, thank you.
And just ED to second by Director Adams. Okay, got it. Thank you. Item T, closed session. Report from CEO be received.
Move receipt of CAO's report.
Director Lee, second. Director Davis. In the SCO?
Nothing to add?
See none. Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried, and the meeting be held to the public consider matters deemed to be fall within the parameters of subsections 91 C, F, G, I, K, N, O, and 92B of the community charter.
So moved.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
Director Rowley, any discussion? See none, call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Motion to terminate.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Adams,
Second.
Director Evans. Call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple of minutes and closed.
Okay.